10 years ago, I was involved directly and indirectly in raising approximately $100,000 to build a home of hope in Bombay, India, for women and girls that were being rescued out of sexual slavery. Hundreds of thousands of girls across Asia are being kidnapped and/or sold into a life of torture and abuse. In November 2005, I went to India and personally visited the brothels. Block after block of multi-storied buildings housed over 100,000 women and girls, many of them sold into sexual slavery by their parents in poverty-stricken villages of Asia. I was horrified at the filth, the brutality, and the absolutely evil world in which the girls were forced to live. Then, I was thrilled to visit a home of hope that we had helped to build to provide safe housing and restoration for women who had found some way to escape the brothels. I was so thankful to have been a part of building this home. Shortly after returning to Texas, I began to see short news clips on our local news reporting raids on prostitution rings where girls were found to be held as sex slaves. After much research, I discovered that the Department of State estimates that between 18,000 and 20,000 victims are trafficked into the United States annually, that most of them are under the age of 18, and that 20% of that total number of identified victims have been located in Texas. This horrible, unspeakable crime is happening here in our own hometowns.
A lot of people assume that human trafficking only happens in other countries, that this couldn't possibly happen here in the United States. And I think they'd be very surprised to find out how much it's happening, and it's probably happening in their town.
There's been a huge increase in trafficking just in the last few years. Houston has become known as the sex capital of the United States, and that's from people telling us that on the street, the female prostitutes. They're bringing girls in from Dallas, Kansas, Fort Smith, Arkansas, Minnesota, Chicago.
Sex traffickers tell these girls that they owe them money for bringing them to the United States, and that they have to earn that money by prostituting themselves. Sex traffickers condition their victims by starvation, confinement, beatings, physical abuse, gang rape, threats of violence to the victim and their families, and forced drug abuse. After conditioning, they are sold as many as 25 times per night. One girl can bring in $10,000 a month. After drug dealing, human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry in the world today. Once law enforcement raids a prostitution ring and arrests those engaged in this evil, what happens to these little girls? Dr. Laura Lederer, Senior Director for Global Projects on Trafficking at the United States Department of State, says, "I am convinced faith-based communities all around the world are the only ones qualified to provide long-term care for trafficking survivors. It's the area of biggest need concerning sex trafficking. I think it's a perfect area for the church to take leadership." I believe that we have received a mandate from God to reach out to these innocent victims of sex trafficking. We must build our own home of hope in Texas, and we need your help. Our mission will be to provide a place of refuge and safety where we can rescue, restore, and rehabilitate victims of modern-day slavery and sex trafficking through the love and power of Jesus Christ. This is a God-sized project. This horrible, giant, evil problem is before us like a Goliath. We can be like David, take what we have and allow God to use it to defeat the enemy. We need much prayer and we need finances. What can you do?